Hey now everybody, this is Jamie.
Hey, this is Chris.
And this is Steve.
Well, welcome back for part 2, where we're going to talk about Steve's favorite pop culture board games.
So get ready to fast forward.
Let's define what pop culture means to me. In my mind, much like pop music, pop culture is something that is accessible, available, and consumed by the public in general. Therefore, it is popular. Unlike Chris's definition of the subgenres or whatever you were delving into.
Nonsense.
Mine is a tad more scientific, if you will.
I tend to agree that his wasn't very scientific. We'll find out if yours is.
I go by my gut. That's how we Americans do it.
Well, you should get a pill for that, Chris, because your gut is rumbling.
All right, Steve, so what is the first game that you recommend from the pop culture category?
All right, well, I believe Marvel's Codenames is, without a doubt, one of the greatest pop culture board games available today. Now, this is a variant on Codenames, which, if you're not familiar, is a word association guessing game, if you will, where there's a field of tiles laid out, and two teams are competing to guess the correct answers of what these letters or pictures have in common with each other. So, for example, if Chris was the question giver and I was competing against Jamie and he wanted me to pick, he might say green. And I could look out on the board and I could see the Hulk and maybe the Green Goblin, maybe that snake guy that's green, whatever his name is.
Snake guy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of snake guys. There's a serpent society.
Yeah, he's green.
Serpentor?
Some green snake guy.
Wrong pop culture
darn
reference,
it.
Chris.
G.I. Joe Chris. Anywho, I pick those dudes and hope that I guess correctly. If so, I score the tiles and I'm one step closer to victory.
Well, this is kind of a double whammy of a pop culture game, in my opinion, because in the board gaming world right now, Codenames is kind of a pop culture game in a sense. Like, it's become one of the hottest sort of party games over the past few years. It's in Target, it's in Walmart, and all that different stuff now. And you got Marvel on top of it, so they themed it with a pop culture theme there too.
Hear that, Miller? Knocking it out of the park.
All right, you got it. You got Jamie's vote. I think everybody out there agrees with me, but that's all right.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll see.
Well, I like Codenames. I think it's good. And I actually played Codenames Disney with my family because they're huge into Disney. They love Disney. And we played Codenames Disney. Same type of thing. Pop culture, IP, intellectual property applied to it. Although I have to say that I was talking about Codenames Marvel with you and your wife. And Codenames Marvel seems to be more of a hobbyist version of the game. Because Codenames Disney was very easy. Because it was all just characters and locations from the different movies. Whereas the Marvel version you were talking about had different types of artwork from the different comics, and it was some of them were very difficult, like guys shaking hands and all sorts of things.
Right, you're correct. And I think that the distinction here is that since the success of the Marvel movies for over a decade now, I think a lot more people are getting into comics. And comics are more accessible than ever now because they have these digital downloads. You can just download, catch up on past episodes. I mean, they're everywhere. So even if you don't read the comics and you watch the movies, you can figure out who the character is, right? They're pretty similar.
Yeah, I had that concern about Codenames. I'm not a big Codenames fan, but with Marvel, I was like, oh, this could be interesting. But then I started hearing some of the characters that were in the game. I was like, I would have no idea who that person is. Like, it's so obscure. It's like a guy in a background of some comic somewhere. And when I finally heard people describe it, I was like, okay, those guys get relegated to a standard code name. You know, you're just trying to describe it.
Were there any cards that had a dude that was randomly in the background of a comic cell?
I don't remember.
I was being hyperbolic.
We'll just say no.
So, all right, Steve, what's your second recommendation on the pop culture list?
All right, my second recommendation, no one will be able to argue with because it's the wildly popular Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I'm with you there.
Good pick.
So Game of Thrones is a diplomacy game where you sit around the table and you all take different countries in Westeros and you command them and you try to expand your influence to conquer all of Westeros and win the game. Now, you can't do that on your own because you only have so many armies and you're constantly beset by your neighbors. There's tensions are running high with everybody at the table. So you need to make alliances. You need to help support people in their battles, hoping that they'll support you and follow up on their word. And that's where this game's exciting because the tables could turn at any moment. You could be counting on support. Your supporters could decide, you know what, you're doing way too good. I'm not going to help you. And there suddenly you are on the defensive. You're losing ground.
Oh, yes. I love playing this game. I love it. It's a game that can make you paranoid when you're playing it, like totally insanely paranoid. I distinctly recall going to CMON Expo and getting up and going to the restroom. And then I walk back into the game hall and I see my enemy and my friend chatting with each other over there. And I'm like, oh, what the hell is he doing? He's talking to that guy. Like, no, like he's making plans. So I start freaking out. Like, I'm like, oh man, I gotta go after Marty now because he's making plans with Pep. And you don't make plans with your enemy's enemy or your friend's enemy.
I have to agree that the diplomacy of this game is really where it's at. I mean, the thing you were talking about with the support from your neighbors. I mean, you go into war with, say, like Chris. I'm going to attack Chris over here. I'm like, Steve, you want to support me over here? You're also adjacent. You can give me support. I think that's just an ingenious mechanic in this game. And it really does feel like Game of Thrones. Especially it's so much betrayal and so much, alliance making and switching alliances. It's fantastic.
Especially because there's no currency in the game. The only currency you have is deals you make with other people.
Support.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. So you have to play the politics, which is what Game of Thrones is all about. Mm-hmm. It's all about politics.
Fantastic.
So good. Good pick, Steve.
That's an excellent pick. All right.
2 for 2, Miller.
So you got 2 for 2. What is number 3?
All right. So this one may be a tad contentious. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and I'm going to tell you why I picked it. Number 3 is The Settlers of Catan. Now, here's why. So already this game is popular, right? You go to any convention, huge booth in the front of the dealer hall. They're selling sheep. They're selling wool. Or wait, no, that is sheep. They're selling things. Grain, that's what I was thinking. Bricks. They're selling all kinds of Settlers of Catan stuff. And
so you go to the hall and they're selling bricks?
Little plushies. They're plushies.
Oh, they're plushy bricks.
I never saw a plushy brick in my life.
Well, apparently it's a new thing.
I get it. They're selling paraphernalia.
They're selling stuff. So anyway, number 2, my mother is, getting on in the years, I'll say, and she knows what Settlers of Catan is. She saw it on the news. There's this board game that's sweeping the nation, and she called me to tell me all about it.
How long ago was that?
That was like a month ago, man.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, that's cool, Mom. I've been playing this game for like over a decade now. But it is pop culture.
Well, then why wouldn't you just pick Monopoly? Because Monopoly is like everything you just said times 10.
That's a great question, Chris. I choose games that are good.
Yeah, the whole point is to recommend games to people, and I'm not recommending. I don't think any of us are going to be recommending Monopoly at any point.
No.
I can't disagree with you, Steve, in a sense, because thematically it's not a pop culture game. As a matter of fact, it's kind of weird that it has that theme and it's so popular. You're collecting sheep and wood and doing trading and all that different stuff.
Bricks, come on.
Yeah, well, bricks. But what's the pop culture part of it is the fact that it's become a pop culture icon in the world now. I mean, I was just watching Conan the other day. They were doing a whole Marvel, Batman, like DC Universe, Marvel skit thing during Comic-Con. And they were talking about how nerdy the DC characters were, and they were playing Settlers of Catan. So it's in pop culture. It's probably more pop culture than anything Chris put on his list.
Yeah, it probably is. And I will say this: I think it's very popular because it's meaty enough for gamers, and it's simple enough for them to get their non-gamer friends to play. Right. So I think that's why it's infiltrated everything. But it hasn't beaten Monopoly yet.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, that despite what Chris would have to say about Settlers of Catan, I still think it's a great game.
Oh, I hate
still think it is a fun... Why do you hate it so much?
Okay, so I don't hate it.
How can it be...
I can't stomach it anymore. I played it too much.
I can't stomach you.
Back in the day, and I'm done with it. I cannot... There's so many good things out there. I don't know why Settlers gets so much love. because there's so many better games out there right now.
It's a fine game.
It's a classic.
It plays
yes.
fun. It plays fun. Strategy.
It plays fun. Yes, it does play fun.
I'm tired of you.
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. 3 out of 3. I'm a winner.
All right. Well, come on back tomorrow where you'll hear my recommendations for pop culture board games. And until then, have a good one, everybody.
See ya.
See you later.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.